into a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn today. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unpanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
Sean Collins, attention, Sean Collins. If you are in the audience, you've been received instructions. Go touch crash.
That was terrible. That was terrible. It's showtime. Let's roll. Engage.
Fuck.
You done playing games? You just told somebody to go touch grass. You're a rude son of a gun, aren't you? That was rude. That was
I really
rude.
screwed it up. Can we redo this?
No, we're live. Too bad.
Oh.
The whole world's
Like right
gonna.
now? Dude, I can't
We're
do this.
live. He can't do this. He can't do this. In the meantime, why don't you go down and get yourself this? Cop that. It's 11:19 in the morning, Eastern time. So I'm gonna enjoy some coffee. Get your butt in here.
Okay.
So yeah, will the real Sean Collins please stand up?
I thought he was
With
busy
a real
touching
ball.
grass.
He's probably busy touching. He's probably busy touching his dogs. Adorable.
Weirdo.
Why is that weird? You
Just
don't like
kidding.
dog kisses?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. You can follow this on Rumble. You can also go to YouTube, the anti-free speech, anti-Semitism site, where everything is anti-Semitism, including Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. Amen. See, that's anti-Semitism. You know why? Because in the Talmud, my Messiah, my Lord, our God, is for some reason in hell. covered in excrement. That's the Belgians for you. That is the Belgians for you.
I thought it was the Hughes.
Here we go.
You know, Hugh Hefner, Hugh Laurie, King Hugh from France. Okay, they're outside. Are they touching grass? Get in here, Zach.
I don't know. Burning it in. Belgians are not allies. Damn straight. Don't ever trust a Belgian when they're bombarding an enclave of the Dutch inside Belgium.
Listen,
Sad.
if anybody doesn't get it, watch World Blockchain Roundtable yesterday. It was pretty funny.
It was.
It's a parody.
It was
From
hilarious.
J-Reg.
So, welcome in everybody. So that is viewing right now. Like, share, tell your friends, tell your family, tell them to come on, check us out. Andrew, why don't you show the new T-shirt that you like? You want to?
Oh yeah,
You want to showcase it.
it's a Legacy Right podcast T-shirt we got.
The only copy.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That is very true. So, Andrew, what is on the itinerary today?
Well, I think we pick up where we left off yesterday or last Friday with the video from Anarchy versus Limited Government by Yaron Brook.
Well, first off, before you hit that button, would you like to lead us in a prayer?
I mean, we can.
Yeah, why don't you pull up the Nicene Creed? We're gonna.
Just a second.
I was kidding. You don't have to pull up the Nicene Creed, but
Okay, yeah.
if you want to, well, we can pledge our allegiance to the Trinitarian God. What about gold breaking 3400 manipulation?
Yeah, that's tariff manipulation.
Oh yeah, that is
anything and everything but the dollar.
And that's
It's
effectively what we're.
It's a covert signal. It's a covert signal for people. Anybody who's paying attention knows they should invest in anything and everything besides the dollar right now. So you should always invest in anything besides the dollar. But they're running up to a super cycle, as they call it, and then it's going to be a market correction. It always runs in cycles.
And that kind of transitions us into what we're about to jump into today, which last week we did the first, give or take, the first hour or so of this 2-hour debate between anarchism and limited statism. Menarchy. Menarchy. So if you would like, Andrew, would you like to sum up last week for the folks that may have not had a chance to watch last week's episode, which you can find on Rumble or YouTube, as well as across everywhere that you like to listen to your podcasts?
Well, basically, Yaron Brook was negotiating, or whatever you want to put it, pushing for, we need to be conscious about the structure that we're implementing, and he's appealing to fear in his arguments. And I can't remember
Yaron or Lukasz?
Yaron.
Yeah. It's summarized. He's comparing anarchy to that of gang warfare.
Yeah.
Which is entirely hilarious, considering the government has its own gangs.
Right.
Why wasn't Sean invited to this debate?
I don't know. It was 6 years ago, so you should ask them 6 years back.
It was 6 years ago, but yeah. I'm
And then-
sure Yaron would not want to debate anybody anymore. He got pretty much torched by Michael Malice 3 years ago on Lex. So was it about 3 years ago? It's about 3 or 4 years ago.
I believe so, yeah. It is getting
And,
warfare. And as for
just
Lukasz,
stop.
he's
Just stop. We can end the show. I'm just kidding, everybody.
As
But
for
yeah, that
Lukasz,
kind of sums it up.
he's
But
playing
go
the
ahead.
contrarian and pulling the air out of his tires, basically. You know, destroying his arguments with facts and logic.
So Yaron is Candace Owens and Lukasz. I'm gonna butcher his last name. Is Ben Shapiro?
Basically, I suppose so.
I don't know. I don't know what this means. What this?
The
That
fuck?
was a meme. So we ready to dive in, everybody, and get
I
on with the
suppose so.
show instead
Yeah,
of
sure.
listening to stuttering Stanley over here and looking at my glorious, beautiful face.
Today, Junior. Let's go.
Competition is because we don't agree on how rights are going to apply. This agency thinks rights should be applied in this way, and this agency thinks rights should be applied in that way, and we don't agree. And how do we resolve disagreement? Well, the way countries resolve disagreement, unfortunately, ultimately through warfare. That's how we resolve disagreement, through violence, and therefore by negation of the very principle of rights. So anarchy, if you believe in individual rights, then anarchy is self-contradictory. Anarchy is a system that rejects individual rights. It rejects the concept of individual rights and rejects the idea that it comes from reason and it is objective. If it is objective, then there's only one interpretation, and that interpretation needs to be enforced by a single government. Now, why then don't I support one government? Because I recognize that mistakes can be made. I recognize that as you mentioned, that people sometimes lose an interest, they lose the vigilance, and a particular state can deteriorate into a not limited state, but into a mixed economy, into a bad state. So I recognize the fact that once we establish a free society, it is not.
These 3 states are quietly letting drivers cut out the insurance middleman and big companies
Determined that it will always be a free society, that it can revert towards the negative. And I want options. In that way, I am for competition among governments. Competition in quotes, because I don't think it's real competition. But on different geographic areas, not overlapping. So, yeah, I'm not particularly enthralled with Poland having its own government, but, you know, something in Europe does make sense to have a government in Europe that protects individual rights in Europe. And in case the United States descends into, let's assume all these governments are really free and they only protect individual rights and they're really good and wonderful. Let's assume then that one of them deteriorates and becomes unfree. You can escape. I want options to escape. Now, maybe when we have something on Mars and the government's over there, we can have one world government on Earth. You know, that bothers me less. As long as there's an option for when something fails, I can go somewhere else. Under anarchy, there's no way to go. I can fire my agency and go to another agency, but I'm still in the midst of a war between the agencies. The anarchy secures one thing. It secures fear. It secures uncertainty. It secures constant stress about who is going to attack whom, when, and where. It is a constant state of war. And that's what I want to avoid. That's where I think individual rights don't matter under anarchy, because they're not being protected by anybody.
Thank you, Dr. Brook. Do you want to sum up it?
Yeah, shortly, before we go to the audience. May I have some
Yes,
short...
if you want to sum up it in any way, then...
I wouldn't like to sum it up, because I guess we'll have some summary
After the question
session at the end. Yeah. I just wanted to say one thing. From my point of view, a limited government is a contradiction in terms. Limited government, because
apologies for the audio splice. This is just how the video was.
It
Same
was
issue from
corrupted.
last week.
Unfortunately, this
So-
is the best that they could do when they uploaded it.
Yeah. So try to just listen as best as you can. So
Yeah.
I don't have anything right now. Let's have Lukasz jump in, and then we'll go from there.
All right.
I guess we both agree on this proposition that individuals have rights, and amongst these rights are right to life, liberty, and property. And government, even limited government, is nothing else than expropriating property protector. Is a contradiction in terms. So I just wanted to state my position one more time before we, I guess, go to the session of Q&A from the audience.
Do you have to?
Sure, I'll just say, I think there's only one right, essentially. I mean, other rights are derivative, and that is the right to life. And I think the only way to protect that right to life is to have a agency responsible for objectively defining how that right is applied. Again, it is massively complex. And that agency, if you don't like the word government, call it something else, but government's a pretty good word for it, that has the monopoly over the use of force, which means has the monopoly over the protection of that right, of the individual right to your life.
Thank you, gentlemen, for this discussion. Very interesting. So I hope there will be a lot of questions from the audience. I have only one kind request to you to ask specific questions about the debate. And it would be best if you say who you want to answer. Dr. Brook, Dr. Dominiak, or maybe both of them. So I think it will be easier for us.
Shy polls.
Hi, I have question to Dr. Dominiak. I assume that in the stateless society, these agencies will be working in parallel. So, for example, I will have one agency and my neighbor will have another one. And if I believe that my capitalist view is the proper one, and my neighbor will not believe that, so it will go into conflict then. And we have the concrete examples, for example, like Dr. Brook said, gangs in the LA, or maybe the no-go zones in the European cities where there is the Sharia law. So is it not the example that this way doesn't work?
Okay, so let me make 3 points as a part of the answer to your question. So first of all, I was trying to present a case in favor of anarcho-capitalist society, and this case was purely moral. Why it was like that? Because I believe we are not really able to predict the future state of the free market. So it's really impossible to think about how such private organizations would work in a free market. We couldn't predict how would telecommunication look like in 1990. Right? We couldn't predict smartphones. We couldn't predict things like that. And by the same token, we can't predict exactly how these agencies would operate on a free market. Having said that, though, I would like to point out the second thing. The second thing is, how is it done between the states? We have 2 different states. They have 2 different legal systems. And citizens of these states come into conflicts, maybe not so often because usually these are peaceful citizens. But sometimes it happens they come into conflicts. And there's no higher arbiter above these states. So how is it solved? Is it solved by some agreement between these 2 states that you can also think of as 2 different agencies? So now just a second, let me finish, and then we can go back and forth. And then coming back to your point exactly. Well, I would say, talking about a possibility of having a gang warfare between private agencies, of course, is an empirical question. And again, I think this is impossible to give any scientific answer to this question that would be exact answer, because we don't have any data to support this or that answer. But what we can resort to a common sense, and this way of looking at things would, I guess, give us this kind of answer, this kind of approximation to an answer. If you look at the history, then you will see that only in the 20th century, 200 million people were killed by their own governments. 100 million people was killed by the communist regime. And now you can compare this number. If the death toll counts to anything, you can compare this number to the private crime and the level of the private crime, the amount of private crime in societies. So it's important to put that into context, and the context is exactly this one I've just provided, which is the amount of people being killed, expropriated, and so on and so forth by the state. Coming back to this point, just last thing. If you have this disagreement, there is such a thing, and repeating or repetitive dealings between market actors. If we have any repetitive dealings between each other, our incentive structure changes into this one, which would make it possible for us to deal again in the future in a profitable way. So what we can intelligently guess, that's just intelligent guess, that's not any bulletproof statement. We can intelligently guess that these companies would come to an agreement how solve such disputes between individuals representing different legal systems, and we can suppose that there would be an appeal court or an appeal entity that they would refer to, and that would be also included, I guess, already in the contract signed between these individuals and their respective agencies.
I mean, can I let me take a shot at answering some of this. Particularly this issue of how is it done between states. It's a disaster between states. It's exactly a good example of, so Egypt in 19...
Is it a disaster between states?
Well, I mean, it really just depends. Look what's going on with Donald Trump. He's using force to get his way, kind of like a spoiled brat, like with the thing between Israel and Iran.
Mm-hmm.
If you can just use a gun whenever you have a problem, you're not going to fix your problem. You're just actually going to complicate it and make it worse.
Yeah, but at the same time, what is going on in the world today, you are seeing a shift in power dynamics because of what Trump has been doing lately, and with the policies of his administration and the ties to Israel, Belgium, and so on and so forth prior to Trump, Biden, Obama, and the list goes on. So as the power shifts and the world begins to effectively decentralize away from the failing dollar, where does that take us at this point?
Well, I mean, it's really it's leading toward the powder keg situation, and historically in a situation like this where the dollars, this is what happened in Germany, right? The dollar basically capitulated in Germany, and they had it was the perfect characteristics for a strong man to come in and just centralize power and take everybody in one direction. So
I wouldn't call Trump a strong man. I mean,
no, not
a strong man doesn't put his mouth on another man's pee-pee.
Well, that's true.
I said it, everybody. There's some funny business going on there.
Anyways,
but yeah, I do like
I'm not trying to just go to that. I'm just saying that's the worst case scenario. When you have
Yeah.
very weak economic stability, you're always going to instigate fear and that's opens the door to manipulation and control.
No, I will take the comparison to the Weimar Republic, and its shift because of its total collapse, and that is exactly how the West is right now, with both Europe and the United States, I think, and Canada. I think the United States is holding a little bit stronger right now, only for the simple fact that we have been the world's leader in the reserve since the end of World War II. And the dollar is effectively still up there at the moment, but you can certainly see where the unraveling is coming as policies that have been enacted are starting to cause degradation and social, political, and cultural matters. And yeah, it's a mess, especially over in Europe, and that it's a domino effect because we're seeing everything on the outside come within. So it will eventually reach us at the true tipping point.
Yeah.
But
And
on the matter of that, my next question though is, do states act in a state of anarchy though?
well, each state has its own particular bias, their own driven fear, and it's really on a case by case basis. Some are more compatible than others.
Why can't we do that on a more localized level
We
between
can.
community and community?
It's just it's so normal for people in today's society to look to the state to fix their problems, which actually that makes it more complicated and more difficult to
Are you
manage
saying that?
situation long term.
Are you saying they're all a bunch of welfare tits?
That's definitely true.
Who's the biggest welfare tit in this country? Culture-wise, tribal-like. Out of the political tribalism that we have in today's day and age, who is the biggest welfare tit?
Democrats, I guess. Well, please enlighten the audience.
Oh, they're for they're the ones with the I don't know how to put this. They are the ones that are more loud about it, yes. But it's the Republican base.
Hmm.
It is the Republican base. Welcome, William.
Hey.
So, while the Democrats are the loudest,
Yeah.
it's the same coin. Two sides of the same coin. One gets loud, and then the other does what the loudest says. They capitulate to each other. Nice. Speaking of walking the trails, Andrew walked 4 times this morning.
Yeah, 17 miles.
Yeah, everybody give him a round of applause.
Well, that was very nice. Thank you very
Crickets.
much.
Crickets. Shall we get back in, or do you have anything else to say?
No, we can get back into it. That's fine.
Go forth, Baldhead.
1956 decides to nationalize the private property of French and British companies called the Suez Canal. And the consequence of that is a short-term war where the French and the British paratroop into to try to protect the property. Or imagine in a different world, the private agencies that protected these companies would paratroop troops to protect the property. And then the United States, which is has a much bigger gun, right, says, we don't like that. Go back home. Let the Egyptians have it. That was the resolution. Is that a just revolution? Was it the right resolution? Who gets to decide? Who got to decide? I'll tell you who got to decide. The biggest gun. The United States had the biggest gun, and therefore it got to decide what the resolution was. In the 1940s and 50s, just I'm picking on the Middle East because I guess I'm Israeli, these countries nationalized the oil of American, French, and British oil companies. What was the resolution? Well, the resolution was, okay, you can have it. That's fine. Go ahead. Stuff like this happens all the time. Massive injustices between states happen all the time. Sometimes they're resolved by war. Sometimes they negotiate and they come to a deal. Sometimes one party just backs off. But there's no objective standard. There's no actual practice of individual rights. There's no, this is your property, we will protect it. That is all out. And it's exactly this kind of foreign policy that suggests that if you give multiple now security agencies, not just in every country, in every geographic area, there are multiple of these. Take the United Nations, that horrific, immoral, stupid organization, and now killed my daughter as a response. So I got my family together and we killed your sons. And then we get in front of a tribunal and they said, stop this is not nice behavior, pay him some money and go away. Okay, so we paid money. But then I thought about it 5 years later and I said, no, that wasn't right. So I go and kill more of your sons. So you get your family together. And this goes on through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. It's exactly why Iceland stayed primitive, right? God, I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in a world where we get to shoot each other and kill each other randomly out of whim. Sure, you can use the communist government and the Nazi governments as example of what government is. But of course, nobody thinks that's a good government, right? So yes, there is evil done in the name of evil governments, in the name of gangs. I consider anarchism to be on that same spectrum, in that same world. It's a world in which violence is legitimized. By providing competition in violence, you are legitimizing it. And communism is bad, fascism is bad, and certainly so is this idea of anarchism. And I never call it anarcho-capitalism because I think it's a contradiction in terms. Capitalism requires government. And then you see it in the mafia, right? You see the same thing, right? You have competing security agencies. And how do they resolve their disputes? Sometimes they negotiate, right? Have you ever seen The Godfather? Right? Sometimes they get into a room together and they cut a deal and they say, oh no, this repetitive, the exact argument. We have a...
Well, yeah, let's stop it right there. He does have a point on that one. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but capitalism, just like socialism, needs government.
Yeah.
What we need is markets. We need voluntary, cooperative markets that realistically, if they really truly want to be sustained, have to be smaller. You expand outward, sure, but you just can't. We've gone through this experiment.
Yeah.
What do you think of what do you think of globalization?
Well, I think it's definitely something that can be done if it's done in the right way, but it's got to be done privately. It's not something you should use the state for. But I just want to touch base real quick. He's talking about the mafia, right? He's appeal to where he's going to. He's type 6. I really believe he's type 6 Enneagram. But anyways, what was you starting to say?
Oh, about the mafia thing? I mean,
no, about the
government is a mafia.
Yeah.
So I don't know where he's coming up with this idea. I mean, that there's going to be multiple mafias that are competing against each other. Well, that might be a good thing if you have multiple mafias because it'll get less violent because ain't nobody going to want to uninstall each other because that's bad for business. Whereas if you have a monopoly of a mafia, then you're going to have the Italian mob got violent because one family, though they were organized, one family wanted to consolidate its own power and monopolize the control over the commission. So yes, they would shift into violent tactics to usher in their power, just like any power structure. The United States government leads us into wars because they need to supplant that they are in control and the policemen of the world with the world's currency reserve. They have to enforce it by the gun. So, I mean, I don't understand where he's coming from with the mafia idea with anarchy.
Yeah. Just wokeness seems to be at death's door. Why? Go woke, go broke. Yeah. Well, it's like I've said before. I don't know if I've said it on World Proctarian Roundtable, but I think I've said it here. Type 7 enthusiast fetish. That's a fetish, and not a sexual fetish. Just
But
they're
why'd you have to put
driven,
that emphasis?
not in a sexual way. Like,
Why'd you have to put that
people,
emphasis? You got a dirty
because
mind.
I'm
don't you?
trying to give context. People have desired traits in different alcohols and stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. Different tastes, subtle tastes.
Vice.
Vice. Okay,
Addictions.
vice. Yes.
Yeah. Fetishes. So
Well, that's
still
another way to.
yeah, it still makes our city similar to Berlin in the 1920s. That's urbanization for you. Urbanization leads to a higher quantity of population, which leads to a clusterfuck of just societal and cultural diversity. And when you have one culture next to in a neighborhood next to another culture, they encroach each other, and then they start there. You got two ordeals that's going to happen. They're either going to get into a fight, or they're going to go political and try to achieve power. And typically it's going to go violent anyways. So if you go in the gangs in New York type scenario.
Well,
But
if you're
if
going to scale a city, someone has to make the mistakes first in order to learn how to do it the right way, right? I was watching a video about 3D printing houses, and they said that they was able to find ways to efficiently cut corners in order to do the 3D printing of houses.
Yeah, but I don't think urbanization has actually always been historically a disaster, because you're putting in too much of a melting pot of just large populace. And that just leads to policies to control and ensure that you keep peace within the realm of that city, and that ends up just creating anarcho-tyranny effectively, because then you have criminal with innocent people caught in the middle, scared to death to even walk outside, because it's just a melting pot. And you have policies that are enacted to try to zone out, and especially in our modern era, to zone out, like, this is for business, retail, this is for industrial and manufacturing and that type of business, this is for residential. And then you end up cutting corners and creating deals behind the scenes between certain business partners in the private sector with the public sector, to where you end up encroaching on residential to expand industrial, and it becomes a mess. So I think that's the issue when it comes to urban dwellings, and that's why our cities are looking like shit.
Well,
but I would like to see.
It's in a public system, like they were saying in the video, mixed economy, right? It's either private. The only real private property that's real is private property. Everything else is just marketing.
Yeah, I think we can print. No, go on.
I was saying you can't, say for a fact that when something's done like that, it's a settled matter when you have these outlier situations that are interfering with the determination of the results.
I think if we can keep printing dollars, and normies will roll over, continue to struggle. They don't even have to print the dollars anymore, and the normies sadly are going to capitulate because they don't know what else to do. So we truly do need to try to say, hey, quit your job. learn how to sustain for yourself. Start being a community. Start building relationships, and quit your shitty ass job. Because honestly, if you don't learn and educate yourself now, you don't have to get in the crypto sphere. You just need to start building relationships and start giving back to your community, getting back to your family, start understanding and educating yourself on sustaining for yourself, whether directly or indirectly. I mean, if you don't do that, then yeah, you're gonna be struggling. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur, but everybody can learn how to sustain for themselves and build relationships and trade amongst each other for things while growing or doing other things. There's lots of people that work 9 to 5s that love to go hunting during the season. Well, use that as a skill and then trade some
Right.
deer meat for some eggs or something, or some broccoli. So
Governments just based on their debt alone make them illegitimate. That's absolutely true.
got anything to say? Add to that?
Just that, once you start borrowing, there's no real escape. You're gonna have to wait for you to hit the wall.
Mhm. That's why the law of economics always wins in the end.
Yep.
Everybody's got to capitulate to the market no matter what. So
The mass market. So let's go ahead and jump back in, okay?
Repetitive dealing, so we better not turn this into a war because there's repetitive dealing. So we want to make sure that we have a good relationship. And that works sometimes. And once in a while, one of the families says, to hell with this. We're just going to kill you all. And they do. That's what you're putting your reliance on. And again, it's not up to public opinion. It's up to those particular leaders of those particular security agencies, because they have the guns and they have the ability to inflict this on people, whether the people want it or not.
Okay, there is a question from the chat, our live streaming, asking Radio Żelaza. Question to Mr. Dominiak. Nozick concluded that competing security agencies would eventually form a huge dominant agency which would effectively monopolize government in a given territory. And there is a little argument that this would not happen. How are people supposed to resist the dangerous outcome? Why not settle for a Republican government then?
Okay, if I understood the question, well, I would say that Nozick's argument, that was really ingenious argument, and we all know that the author was an extremely intelligent person and amazing philosopher, was unfortunately unsuccessful in a sense that he didn't prove that it is possible for the state to develop in a way that does not violate individual rights. So that would be the first part of my answer. The second part of my answer, well, I think, as I understood the question, the second part of the question was about how can we assure that it doesn't develop into warfare or monopoly. How we can be sure? Well, we can't be sure. We can't be sure. I think we are really at this point we have to count on what's more likely, what's less likely, and what would be the circumstances needed to make this devolution less likely. And I guess we kind of both agreed here, whether we're talking about a limited government or we're talking about a stateless society, to make sure that these arrangements don't devolve into a monopolistic, rights-violating government, and especially a government that is a pretty big government. We have to have a particular state of public opinion. So I think that's the only and ultimate check for this scenario not coming, not happening, basically. So that would be my answer, and I will repeat maybe it's kind of boring, but I will repeat myself again, that the main argument in favor of anarcho-capitalism and against the state is a moral argument. I'm not making cybernetics here. I'm not trying to predict what would happen in the future. It's not futuristic argument or science fiction. We can't really predict that, but we can point into things that are likely to happen, that would be desirable to protect us against such bad scenarios, and ultimately we just resort to a moral argument showing that a government expropriates people, and therefore it's a contradiction in terms and necessarily involves violation of individual rights because it's monopolistic, as was suggested by the question, and because usually it taxes people. That's it, I guess.
So let me just say, I don't buy the moral argument. I don't think it's right. I think it's flawed dramatically because it views violence as just a competitive, something you can compete around. There is no moral argument for anarchy. The moral argument is
Remember, there was audio issues. It's just a video. It's not anything we did.
Uh-oh. Where do we bring back the audio? Or we just gonna let it?
It's just we'll just let it run.
Really?
It sucks.
Really?
I don't know where.
Why don't you lip read him right now?
Zach is the co-host of the Legacy Right, but he's really just the host.
What? Oh, you could have come up with something better than that.
No
Andrew
more argument for
is-
anarchy. What the fuck happened with self-determination?
Self-determination
bloodbath.
went.
But
we're back.
well, isn't that exactly the case with the states? The states being racketeers, the states at some point saying, okay, so we're going to kill all these people of this nationality, of this race, of this
I'm gonna
religion,
answer that.
and so on and so forth.
All right. Sorry.
Self-determination went out the window, at least for this country, in about 1794.
Mm-hmm. I think
There you
something
go.
about when we started going to war all the time, that kind of, put the kibosh on that.
No, I just meant that about the time around 1793, 1794 is when the first major recession kind of occurred. Right around the same time, you had all this retraction and extraction by the central bank, all this land grab, and then you had the whiskey tax, and then we started breaking treaties with the tribes for more land grabs for all these land speculators, and then we ended up having to go to war again against our own people because of the Whiskey Rebellion, and basically self-determination ended right then and there. Then we decided to stick our noses under Adams. Stick our noses in the world affairs. I don't know for what reason. We thought we were big and bad, I guess, and started to jump into the quasi wars, have a little skirmish on the seas with the two greatest naval powers in the world, France and Britain. Kind of mess with them. I guess it's a good thing that France was a little weak, and Britain was a little worn out. And of course, you had something called the Alien and Seditions Act. So that's basically when this country basically fell apart before it even started. A little rundown for all y'all. Brock is part of the Ayn Rand Foundation, or Brook. Brook is part of the Ayn Rand Foundation. Yes. Yeah, he is the chair still, isn't he?
As far as I'm aware.
Yeah, he's still the chair. Why would he say anarchy has no moral authority? Because he's a cuck. Andrew, do you have an answer?
Just that he's. It seems like he's scared. That's all I can really say.
So he's a cuck.
Yeah. Want to get
All
back
right.
into it?
Let's jump into it.
All right.
What's the difference? What's the difference between these two arrangements? And well, of course, we've discussed it, so I will not repeat this again and again. I just wanted to pay your attention to some maybe a bit funny circumstance that actually mafia taxed about 10%.
Shit. You got to answer it, man.
I mean, I really can't speak for him. I can anticipate the way the way he's thinking. And I mean, he comes across as a coward. He won't let it go. He won't let people have an experience, and try it and see if it would work. That's the only really thing I can say that's objectively seems to be true, at least from my perspective.
State tax is about 50%.
Yeah, I'll take the 50%. I'll take the 50% over the 10% because I get something for the 50%, and at least I don't have to worry constantly about somebody shooting me in the back of the head. So I'd rather not. I'd rather take the 50% and have security than beholden to the mafia and only pay 10%. The other examples David Friedman gives of Somalia. Oh my God. I mean, you should travel to Somalia sometimes to see the wonders of anarchy in Somalia. What's his name also? Pete Leeson writes about Somalia. I mean, what a horrible place. And they talk about private law that basically enslaves women, a private law where you can be stoned to death, private law that has no concept of individual rights. And indeed, David Friedman doesn't have any concept of individual rights. That's not a basis for his arguments for anarchy. But no, I think the difference is this. I have a model for what a state looks like, for what a proper state looks like, for what a individual rights respecting state looks like. I believe that the mafia is exactly a model of competition in force. I think competition in force inevitably results in a mafia because there is no standard that dictates how you should compete in force, because individual rights become irrelevant once you accept different agencies defining individual rights in their own different way, defining the law in their own different way. There is no law. There is no individual rights. They're just mafias. That's all that's left. Inevitably, under anarchism, no matter what public opinion is.
Well, I think as the question from the chat suggested, actually what we can expect from a limited government is basically a devolution into a bigger government and a violation of individual rights. So in a word, what's the worst scenario we can think of as far as the anarcho-capitalist society is concerned is that some of these private agencies would basically devolve into the states. So the state is the worst possible scenario, and well, we can at least give it a try, and we can at least have 500 years of freedom before the state develops. Because, as we know from history, state doesn't develop quickly. It took a bit to develop a contemporary state. Actually, we can say that the beginning of the institution of the state is 1648.
I mean, that's logically just false, right? The devolution of anarchy to a state is through violence. It's through the violation of individual rights. So yes, the state such a society will create is the worst of all. Is the worst of worlds. Although I think the process of getting there, that is anarchism, is worse than the state that evolves in the end. If you look at the bloodiest periods in history, they are not periods of the nation state. They are periods of warring religions, of warring tribes, of war, where the state doesn't exist, and the concept of individual rights doesn't exist. When everybody is fighting everybody, that is the worst case scenario for human existence, and it's what anarchism ultimately has to lead to logically.
No, I think there's
no standard. There's no objective standard for what is true, for what are rights, for what is the law, for what's a violation.
That's
So we can only fight it out. That's all we're left with.
That's basically mistaken as far as facts are concerned. This is a Hobbesian myth that in the state of nature, everyone will fight against everyone, and our life will be short and perilous. But the facts are that the biggest amount of victims, both in deaths and in expropriations, in thefts, in mutilations, and so on and so forth, are actually peculiar peculiar to the states, are peculiar to the statist century, the 20th century, where the states were the strongest. You're not going to tell me, I suppose, that tribes killed more people than the communist regime in China or in Soviet Union. You're not going to.
I actually am. So I'd recommend reading Steven Pinker's
over what span of time?
Better Nature of Our Angels. I just recommend reading
50 years?
book. The percentage was higher. I'm talking about the percentage, not the total number. Of course not. The percentage was much higher. And that we live today, in spite of all the states that exist, and in spite of my criticism of all the states that exist, we live in the least violent. Now, there's non-violent force being inflicted on all of us. But in terms of violence, we live today in the least violent period of all of human history. And if you think that has nothing to do with the existence of states, of course it has everything to do with the existence of states. States would use violence. Now, they inflict other forms of force, regulation, redistribution of wealth, all this other stuff that I want to eliminate as well. But no, tribes were much more violent than even communists, as evil and as nasty as communists were. They were much more violent.
Just last word. Well, it depends how you look at that, right? So you talk about percentages. Well, if we have two people in the world and one person is killed, that's 50%. But if you have 100 million people killed, well, I find it worse, basically. So you can opt for percent. I will opt for the number of people killed by the state.
Thank you, gentlemen, for this very complex answer. Are there any more questions? Yes.
Yes, I have a question to Dr. Dominiak. You said that the limited state is full of contradictions. Would you be ready to accept the limited state as a step towards gaining the anarcho-capitalistic society, or would you say that there is another way to achieve anarcho-capitalism?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think it will just cool us down a bit because well, you know, we have this format of the debate and we're supposed to argue for the opposite positions, but I think that should be stated that we both come from libertarian, although you're not willing to use the word, we both come, so maybe let me change the word. So we both come from the respect for individual rights, and we want to analyze the possible systems, political systems or social systems that can consistently and to the high extent, I guess also, that would be important consideration, provide protection for these rights. So although there is some disagreement between us, as you can imagine, I guess, the disagreement is really insignificant in comparison to how many things we share and how many ideas we share and in how many concepts and the rights and liberties we believe in. Well, let's say outside the format of the debate, I would of course say that limited government is highly desirable. Let me maybe quote a friend of mine, Walter Block. He has this really funny joke when a person asks an economist, "How's your wife?" The answer is compared to what? So how is limited government compared to what? Limited government, of course, compared to what we have currently, is an amazing solution. So I would say, well, I would absolutely welcome that. I would even welcome limited government as not leading anywhere else. But as far as principles are concerned, I think that the right is on the side of anarcho-capitalist position. The right is on the side of full respect to individual rights. But this is comparatively insignificant. I mean, in comparison to how many things we share, I guess.
So I'm going to disagree. I think it's a big deal. I think the disagreement is a big deal, and it's one of the reasons I won't call myself a libertarian. And I think at the end of the day, we haven't talked about this, but it's probably going to, it probably results in the fact that we don't define individual rights correctly, the same way, and that we don't apply individual rights the same way. And that there are deeper, much deeper philosophical issues at bay where we disagree on. Because I don't think you can come to the anarcho-capitalist position or the anarchist position without, I think, making deep philosophical errors. For example, in the role of violence in human life and what individual rights actually mean. I mean, since you mentioned Walter Block, I will ask the question, you know, is it okay, is it rights violating to have sex with a 5-year-old child? Now, I would argue absolutely it's rights violating. It's a horrific rights violation, and that person should spend a big chunk of their life in jail, if not forever. But there are libertarians, they are anarchists who say, well,
okay.
According to the Talmud, Belgium says it's fine. 3 for a female and 9 for a male.
I mean, that happens all the time, apparently, in the Middle East, so.
Filthy, filthy Belgians, dude. Why is that?
Well, just a second. I don't like the term libertarian either. The U.S. political party called the Libertarian Party has polluted and downgraded the term.
Always did. That's the reason why Konkin divorced from it all and began his pursuit of agorism, like literally, and tried to redefine what libertarianism should mean in agorism, in agorist theory, rather than go with the flow of the partyarchy. So, I mean, we shouldn't really like libertarian, on top of the fact that the first people to utilize the term libertarian were a bunch of socialists, literal socialists in France, in both the late 18th and all the way up to the middle of the 19th century. So, libertarian, socialism, proto-socialism. The initial libertarians were the proto-socialists of the libertines of the French Revolution, the Jacobins, and we all know what that happened. Although I would like to see some heads roll at this rate, because we're literally ruled in
the cowardly French. Do I have to pull up the YouTube clip? I feel like I want to pull up the YouTube clip. Kierkegaard, 08. Anyways, we had I had a friend on Facebook that went to Cuba. We had an episode about it a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how that happens down in Cuba. And like I said, I was watching a video about Egypt, and it happens in Egypt. And there's places where there's such low, morality, and it's just it's so gray that nobody cares. They do whatever they want because there's no consequences.
Sorry, that had me rolling.
It's
I had to disappear. I don't even know where I'm at now. That was hilarious. That was just somewhat random.
Right.
Effing French. All right.
That's right.
Let's get
back into it. All right.
Why? It's consensual. The child might have said yes, but but that's meaningless, right? And there might be a protection agency that will protect your right, in quotes, to have sex with that 5-year-old child. Now, what does one do if there is a protection agency? Let's say I'm offering services to pedophiles. I am a rights protection agency that protects the rights of men to have, or women, doesn't matter. Women, it's harder, but to have sex with a 5-year-old child. What do you do with that? How do we solve this issue? How do we combat it? How do we get rid of this agency? People voluntarily are signing up. People voluntarily are willing to participate. Maybe even parents are voluntarily willing to have their kids participate. It's all voluntary. How do we deal with it? Well, I mean, I've got like creepy crawlers down my spine just thinking about that, right? Because they are sick parents and they are sick people who want to have sex with 5-year-olds. And anarchism would legitimize that completely. Now, that means there's no such thing as individual rights. That means the negation of individual rights and the negation of what it even means to be voluntary. How can a 5-year-old be voluntary anything? And how can a parent abuse a child and get away with it? So these are complex issues that anarchism defaults on and ultimately has to lead to massive injustices of these individual rights that supposedly we agree upon, but I'm not sure we do agree on them. And I certainly don't think we see them as coming from the same source and applying in the same way. So I think, and this is my resistance to saying we agree on a lot of things, I'm not sure we do if once you start peeling away the rhetoric into what it actually means.
Okay, so I have a question to the Dr. Brook. So was your last comment based on what? On distaste? Like, would you be equally moved? Sorry. Was your last comment based on, I don't know, moral distaste or repugnance? Or would you be equally moved, I don't know, if I just come back home now and enjoying my property and all my liberties, I masturbate watching pornography? I don't know, would you call it unjust or... I don't know, are you against effectively principle of voluntariness? I don't know, like, does your position imply that if...
I mean, your masturbation is not violating anybody's rights. I don't care if you masturbate. So why would I care?
Yeah, because I'm trying
why would anybody care?
I'm trying to test your approach. Like, is it based on distaste, repugnance? So let's assume that...
I mean, my point is this. My point is that application of individual rights is complicated. And applying it, for example, to children is very complex. But children have rights, and those rights are held in trust by parents. But somebody has to supervise the parents to make sure they don't abuse that trust. And that, for example, is one of the roles of government, to protect the rights of the child from often his own parents. And there's no way to, I just gave that example as a way in which anarchy cannot deal with that. And indeed, anarchy would encourage the creation of societies of pedophiles.
I had to push back on him a little. I'm not defending what the guy was talking about. I'm just saying, look what happened a couple years ago during the Biden administration. They were talking about how, kids could go to like Washington State to trans themselves. You got to take that kind of situation into context when you're talking about stuff like this, because you can't just apply a universal one size fits all solution. Context is very important when you're talking about any side of an argument.
I like guns. I think everybody should be defending children with guns. I don't like laws. Laws don't do anything.
Laws can be abused. To abuse.
Laws protect pedophiles.
Thank you, William. Did we throw this one up?
Who is John Galt? I don't think you are trying to find out who he is or where he is. Brook, you lost on Rand's point. You have gone astray. John Galt is Lysander Spinner.
Yep. Are you ready to get back into it?
I'm you know what? You get back into it. I'm gonna go probably go walk next door to my neighbor's house. It's a big red dot.
All right.
I don't know if it's that neighbor. I think it was an old neighbor. But I don't care. It still says a red dot.
Files with parents who want to abuse their kids to join together. Now, I consider pedophilia a capital offense. It's as close to getting, shot as I can think of. Now, you masturbating, I mean, good for you. I mean, I'm actually very much pro masturbation. I think masturbation is wonderful. You should all do it if you're not doing it, and do it often. What does that have to do with molesting children? It doesn't have any relationship to the two.
So what about gays then?
What about what?
What about gays having consensual sex?
It's consensual, right? They're adults. They get to make their own decisions. Again, a child is not an adult, and there has to be differentiation between children and adults, which again, my argument is anarchy cannot embed. You have to have a government that protects children.
Okay, let me just push you a bit more. There was this anecdote by Walter Block, just to follow Dr. Dominiak's style. He used this anecdote. There was a conference. There were two neo-Nazis in the audience, and he was peculiarly keen on sort of converting them to libertarianism. And he said, "You would have a really good deal with us, with libertarians, you Nazis. You would have your goose marches. You would sing your Nazi songs in your properties. What's more, you could get some Jews to the gas if they're willing, if they volunteer."
That's disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting.
But that's voluntary.
No, you don't. It's not. If you want to commit suicide, that's fine. You cannot.
That's exactly a sort of suicide.
This is exactly the point where you guys don't understand what individual rights mean. You cannot voluntarily assign yourself into slavery. There is no such thing as a contract. Contract means something. It is a legal document that assigns certain rights and certain responsibilities. You cannot assign yourself into slavery. If you want to commit suicide, you have every right to do that. You can commit suicide.
Does he not know what indentured servitude is? Was this a contract for a term that you do work essentially for free? It's voluntary slavery, basically.
I mean,
Which
people
is what,
used to do it to move to other countries. That's what, started off with slavery in the United States.
Well, yeah. You had indentured servitude, and then you had chattel. Most of the slavery in the old ancient world was indentured servitude as well. We're talking prestigious occupations as well, even attorneys. What is considered prestigious now could have potentially been an indentured servant back in the days of Rome. So fact check me on that one, but just basic occupations, doctors. So, but yeah, I mean, that's slavery by contract.
Yeah.
So I don't know where Yaron. I guess Yaron has chattel slavery on his brain, which I concur. People are not property, nor should they be property. So, I mean, that's dehumanizing to make us livestock. I kind of have an issue with livestock, animal-wise, but you know what? They're raised to be that. You have domesticated animals for a specific purpose. So long as you humanely steward the land.
Look at the chaos over SeaWorld, all the pushback on that. So,
oh well, SeaWorld's just a bunch of liberals.
No, I'm just
and
saying,
then all the liberals.
It's contextual. You need each person's going to have a different, point of view and protest if they feel like they can get away with it. So,
I was just going to say, all the liberals got pissed off at a liberal institution. I don't know.
Let's get back into it. You go finish up the job over at the neighbors.
You cannot have a right to contractually assign some Jews to come and get gassed. You can goose march. You can do all the paraphernalia of Nazism. You have every right to do that. You can exclude from your property anybody who is not blue-eyed and blonde. But the idea that you can voluntarily gas people is sick and disgusting. And this is why I mean, I'm disgusted by Walter Block and why I find him an enemy of liberty, not a friend of liberty, but an enemy of liberty, and on the side of the Nazis and the communists. And that's why I view gang warfare on that side. I don't view that as being consistent with freedom. Contracts means something. That's not whatever you want. It's not whatever you whim. This is exactly what individual rights are trying to get away from. It's to get away from the idea that whim is primary. Whatever you feel like is primary. By the way, those Nazis, even if all they do is goose steps, I'm still going to call them evil. I still think they're I'm still going to watch them because I think they're a threat. And I still think they're evil, morally evil, for holding those ideas. So there is such a thing as...
You were not moved by me masturbating, but are you moved by masturbating?
Because I don't think you masturbating is illegal. Is immoral. I think you masturbating is moral. I think, I mean, it depends why you masturbate and how you masturbate and all that. Maybe it is immoral, but generally masturbation, I think, is a moral activity. I think that holding certain ideas like...
This certainly feels like an episode of The Legacy, right, when they're talking about masturbation.
Why are you masturbating right now? You better
all
not
the
be.
time.
God's watching, dude. God is watching. Stop
Okay.
fornicating with yourself.
All right. Let's get back into it.
Nazism, holding certain ideas like communism, is immoral.
Do I violate anybody by holding ideas?
Morality is not about whether you violate rights or not. Morality is about how you live your life. This is exactly what I argued before. We don't agree on a lot. We disagree fundamentally. Most anarchists are moral subjectivists. Most anarchists don't believe in individual rights. Most anarchists don't believe in an objective morality. We disagree on the most fundamental questions about human engagement. And this is why I don't think, oh, we agree on most stuff, we disagree on just this final outcome. No, for most, not everybody, there's some anarchists who I think we do agree on a lot of stuff. But for most anarchists, we disagree on a whole slew of philosophical questions. And that disagreement is reflected in the fact that we also disagree in this political issue.
If I can jump in for a second. Well, I think that was quite important what you said because I agree that this is what distinguishes us or what divides us, because libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism as a form of libertarianism is a view that can be called a thin philosophical view. So we don't really try to impose on people any so-called objective morality. You just pick and choose. This time you picked and choose masturbation as actually okay and marching Nazis as not okay. We're not doing this. What we're doing is we try to distribute spheres of freedom between individuals, and provided they don't violate each other's rights, each other domains, borders of jurisdictions, they can do whatever they want. So we are respectful of freedom. Whereas you've just shown, in my opinion, that there are some limits to freedom for you. The limits being that there is some particular so-called objective. I can't see why it's objective. It's just particular morality. You pick and choose some things and you call them unethical. I'm not, as a libertarian, not as a human being, but as a libertarian, we basically are not judgmental. We don't try to impose on people any particular morality, and we see the distinction between right and morality very, very clearly. And to this point, actually referring to the problem with children that we referred to, I guess, like as a libertarian, we can't say anything about morality of having sexual acts with children. But I guess as a human being, of course, we would condemn it. But as libertarians, we would basically point out to the difference between a right as a protection of interests and different sorts of protections of interests. There are different sorts of protection of interests. There is morality that you mentioned. There is ethics that you mentioned. There is repugnance that was mentioned by one person in the audience. And of course, we would refer to these elements as human beings as protecting children against these kind of abuses. So basically, I can't see the problem here. I think that there is, of course, some disagreement between us about what rights, in this case, we would like to assign to children. I guess there are some rights you wouldn't like to assign to children. For instance, you wouldn't assign a right to a child to sell real estate. You wouldn't like to assign a right to a child to perform any other legal actions. The only right you would be willing to assign to a child, I guess, would be a right to be protected against physical violence by other people. As far as I'm concerned, I think libertarianism has resources to do exactly the same. Although we wouldn't go further, we wouldn't go into thick theory, we wouldn't tell people what to do if they don't want to, we wouldn't pick and choose this and that as moral or immoral and refer to so-called objective morality.
No, this is good because this is exactly why I do not call myself libertarian. I find much of that repugnant. And the fact is that I don't want to impose my morality, but I do think there is a true morality. I do think there's a right morality, and that morality.
What if I disagree?
Then you can live your life as long as you don't violate other people's rights. Do whatever the hell you want, but don't claim that we agree on individual rights, because we do not. And this is why this idea that libertarians believe in individual rights. We just think this is how we arbitrate them. You don't agree on individual rights. That is, individual rights are not random. Individual rights from a particular moral perspective. Individual rights are a moral concept. They're not even a political concept. They're a moral concept. They're a concept that bridges morality with politics. So let's be philosophical, right? We want to be philosophical. The whole idea was a moral defense of anarchism. Well, if morality is completely subjective, if morality is whatever you want it to be, then there is no moral defense of anything. It's whatever you happen to agree with, whatever you feel like. There is no truth. There's no one moral truth, right? It's random. It's whimsical. It's whatever, right? So I believe that there is a moral truth. I believe that some systems are moral and some systems are immoral. But you can't say it's immoral. It depends. Some people might like it. No, there is an objective truth here. So the concept of individual rights and how we come to it and how we apply it and where it applies depends on having a proper conception of morality. And if we do not have a proper conception of morality, as I think most libertarians do not, then their concept of individual rights is flawed, and therefore their security agencies are all going to be flawed because they're trying to protect the wrong thing. The whole thing, the whole agenda is logically false and logically cannot stand, because you won't accept the existence of an objective morality on which to base your moral case for X.
Well, just last one word, if I can, because that's really interesting. Well, you know, I said that we share many things. I said that we share belief in individual rights. Yet I agree with you that in some respects, our definitions of individual rights are different. One of this respect, of course, that I identified during my speech is that you think that there is no right not to be expropriated by the state. There's no right, individual right,
That's not what I said, and you know that.
No, there's no with a protection service on a given territory if there is a monopolistic, compulsory monopolistic agency called the state. The second thing is that, well, libertarianism is really respectful of the fact of which is usually called moral pluralism, that people can reasonably differ as far as their moral doctrines are concerned. We have Christians, we have Catholics, we have Jews, we have various reasonable moral doctrines that differ. And because we have this moral pluralism, exactly because of this reason. Libertarianism is a preferable way of distributing between people domains of freedom to decide for themselves which moral doctrine they want to follow, and not to impose on them so-called objective morality that they can disagree with, basically.
So, one quick comment. Most moral doctrines, almost all of them, almost all moral doctrines think that using force on other people in order to make right is a good thing. Most moral doctrines do not recognize individual rights. Certainly the Judeo-Christian Islamic moral tradition has no respect for individual rights and believes explicitly that it's okay to use force on other people in order to straighten them out. So I think moral pluralism, great, right? But as long as the morality of individualism is not the dominant morality, then you will not have freedom. And as long as you advocate for moral pluralism, you will never have freedom. Moral pluralism is the way to go down in flames to the statists, to the Christian statists, the Jewish statists, the Islamic statists, and the secular statists who use their moral code in order to justify their rule. It is a way to fail if you believe in liberty.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Now we will skip to the last question. And after that, you will have 5 minutes to sum up the whole discussion.
I can
So the last
understand.
question.
I can understand the Islamic status. I can also understand the Belgians. Their status. They are status. But the Christian status, man, you're not a Christian then. You may use Christianity as an advantage, but you're not a Christian if you're a statist. Anyways, Andrew, why don't you explain your explain this comment down here? By the way, this is you, isn't it?
Yeah, that is me.
Yeah, there's the Conan.
Reduce, yeah. AI Conan 90, sorry. Brooks feel like there's always training wheels, right? It's reduce risks. That we had to have something in place in order to make sure that, there's somebody to protect me in case if somebody was to get a wild hair up their ass and didn't want to hurt me. It's basically it. It's time and place for state rails, time and place for insurance. That's
every now and again. I mean, you have to learn how to ride the bike. And yes, you're gonna be guided. And mom or dad, for me it was mom mostly, sometimes dad, mostly mom, holding on to the back of the seat when you're just learning how to ride without the training wheels, going down the street to the corner, and they let go. And you go a little bit and you fall. But you got to get back up. And they'll guide you, but eventually they're going to take their hand off, and you're just going to have to realize they're not there and just keep balance. And I think that's where Yaron is right now, is he's too scared to keep balance on his own on that bike. And that's a lot of people in this day and age, in this world, in our Western society today. They don't want to, they want to feel comfortable. They want to have that illusion that mommy and daddy are still holding on to the back seat of that, to the back of that seat on that bike, so that they can feel like they don't need the training wheels, but at least somebody's holding on. So I don't know. That's my example.
Well, let's be realistic. I mean, fear sells when you're in the government. That's how you make your most money. Is you need a boogeyman, but that boogeyman doesn't last forever. Look with the the COVID-19 shots. Everyone was pushing COVID-19, even after it was so blatantly obvious how much of a scam it was. They were still pushing it because it was in the works. It was in the pipeline.
They're pushing it.
I'm not
now.
saying it's right. Yeah, I'm just saying you hear it on the radio that's advertised, even though everyone and their mother knows it's a total fraud. They need a boogeyman because the boogeyman doesn't last forever, and then they come up with something new.
I'm glad you brought up the mRNA shots, because those are right back in the news again. And Operation Warp Speed. It was
You
it
just
was
can't
the
let
best.
it go.
It was the best decision I ever made. If it wasn't for Operation Warp Speed, we would have died, all of us. It would have been a winter of death.
Right.
How did
William
Biden
says
put it? How did Biden put it?
just a winner or whatever. I don't remember.
I was doing the Biden.
Oh,
He just
he wouldn't say
he
anything at
couldn't
all.
speak.
Yeah. Anyways, I was saying, William was saying, as long as you have a state that determines what rights you have, or we have and don't have, and how they are protected or forced, then you are not free. That's right.
There are no rights.
It's all about the state's bias.
Mhm.
No.
There are no rights. There's only
You go
one
with
right.
fear, you go against the fear, or you interpret the fear.
Live your life, basically. Who needs insurance? I will just sue the training wheel manufacturer and the big box store that sold them to me. Long live the lawyers.
Well, their infrastructure
Take it away, Andrew.
Their infrastructure is decaying with different implementations of crypto law. So we'll see what happens with that. But good luck.
Do we need a blockchain for the insurance for training wheels?
Sure. I'm sure it'll sell really well on the open market.
XMR Bazaar.
Here we go.
This will be the question for Yaron Brook, and I want to ask you that why in this discussion you think that the force is the need of the people, yeah? Because when we are talking about the private
Force is what? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
The force is people need, because when we are talking about the private agency, which should protect people, because force is not a need. The true need is to be protected for the force, yeah? So the agency will not create the war, constant war with each other, yeah? They rather want to to stop the wars, to stop the violence, because people will pay them for that, yeah? So they work like a company, not like a government. Government have got money in any way, yeah? It's good or bad government. Company can earn money, achieve money and people only when it's good on their own way. So that's a question.
Thanks for asking a question. It's a good question. There's a fundamental difference between economic power and force, or what I call political power. The difference is the one embodies a gun and the other one does not. Economic power is truly voluntary. Economic power is about the gaining of values and constant progress and constant competition and constant improvement in win-win transactions and win-win relationships. Once you bring in the gun, once you bring in force, protection you call it, but protection is very naive. It's a very nice word, right? Because what is my protection might be force against you. I need to protect it against you. You're doing stuff economically that I don't like. I want your stuff. And my protection agency is now, I've paid it a lot of money to go after you and go after your stuff. And if my protection agency has a bigger gun than your protection agency, then who do you think is going to win that one? It's all about guns. It's all about the size of the weapons. It's all about force. It's not about value creation. It's about guns. It's about the bigger gun wins, right? So, political power, the power of the gun, is about coercion. It is about force. Whether it's held by the government, it's power, it's the same kind of power in government, or it's held by private entities. Private entities that are supposedly motivated by money, but they still have a gun in their hand. And a gun in their hand allows them to inflict their power over other people. without it being voluntary. And their whole purpose is not to be voluntary because they're protecting me. They're not protecting you. You didn't pay them. So they're there to protect me. So if I have a conflict with you, they represent me. And if they're going to inflict their power on you, they're not violating any voluntary agreement they had with me. I say, cool, go after him. Now you have a protection agency responsible for protecting you. And they have to negotiate, or they have to war, or they have to do whatever. And what if their negotiations break down? And this is why, it was brought up that states functions like this. Yeah. And exactly what we get. We get wars. We get World War II. We get even stupider World War I, or both are equally stupid, I guess, World War I. We get because there's no final authority. There's no way to arbitrate disputes. And they have big guns. And I can inflict, I'm Germany. I can inflict my bigger gun than on Poland. I'm going to take you over. Well, the protection agency is going to do exactly the same thing. And there's no way to stop them. And the will of the people doesn't matter because unless the people are all armed, and that's fine. I mean, the one solution I can imagine to all this is we're all armed. We all carry. We all have the machine gun ready. And we're all constantly, all the time at war. But nobody wants to live like that. Nobody wants to live like that. Nobody should want to live like that. Nobody should live like that. I
just want to touch base about what he's talking about real quick. There was this case about a guy who was in an apartment complex. I don't know where it was. I started seeing on the news a while ago. And somebody had called about a noise complaint because he's playing video games. And so the police come to his door to knock on the door about the noise complaint. And he's playing video games. He's not paying attention. He grabs a gun. He opens the door and they see he's got a gun. And they shoot and kill him. How is that solved under his system? It's not.
It's not. And in fact, the police just trust. But did they even have a warrant?
No, it was just a noise complaint.
Oh, it's a noise complaint.
In the city, they do that all the time. You don't need a warrant.
Yeah, noise complaint. They're supposed to knock. That's it. If nobody answers, you go away. It's a civil matter. It's a noise complaint. It's mainly a welfare check. Any type of check like that, you knock, nobody answers, you leave. Unless you literally hear something that is exigent circumstance, like you hear a scream, which that's probably what they tried to say. But even that's a little iffy. But no, if they can't get an answer, they go home. They can go back to their cruisers, back to beating off like they always do on our taxpayer dime.
I mean, when I was playing PUBG back in the day, I was always loud when I played. So,
I mean, I blame the French and Belgium. You were loud back in the day. Why were you loud?
Well, you get passionate and animated, like, oh, I'm going to kill that guy or whatever, and you're not even paying attention. You
think that's what they heard? Do you think that's what they heard?
They could have. I don't know. I didn't make the 911 call. I'm just saying. I'm putting context to what he's saying here and how it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to Yaron Brook's explanation, his reasoning, he's pretty much debunking himself and proving that the state is a gang.
Yeah.
Welcome to Black Pilled Friday, everybody.
Right.
Get black pilled and enjoy your weekend.
Join the club. I'm black pilled all the time.
That's because you're depressing. So after this Black Pilled Friday edition of Weekly Legacy, go get white pilled by going and touching grass. Enjoy your beautiful day. Go for a hike. Cut your grass. Play with the kids and the grandkids.
Why would anyone do drugs when they could just mow a lawn and kill?
Exactly, yeah. Well, why would you need drugs if you can just mow your lawn? It's refreshing. Yeah. So, yeah. We live in the basement under the central banks, hoping they throw down some slop to eat in order to survive in their prison. Those that lick the boots of the masters eat better. I don't even think they eat better. I think they just get more slop. I don't know if that's eating better. They just get more slop.
I mean, that sounds like what they did in the gulags in Russia.
That's probably what they're doing in El Salvador.
There's a whole video from Count Dankula. He talks about the gulags. So, anyways, we got 10 minutes left. Let's go ahead and get into this so we can try to round out about 2 hours.
Boom.
I consider the anarchist position in the same place as authoritarianism, because I think it leads to the same state of mind, the same kind of life, which is a life of fear and oppression and constant fear, constant inability to use the one weapon, the one tool we have to produce, which is our mind.
If I can jump into this question also.
Yes. But
Okay, thank you. So.
The last 2 sentences.
Okay, right. So first of all, I would say maybe that would be worth mentioning today, something that we haven't mentioned yet. The difference between the operation between the states and, as what you mentioned in your question, between private security agencies, which, by the way, I think we can expect would be actually insurance companies working on a free market. Insurance companies provide service to people. They insure them against catastrophes. These catastrophes can be natural catastrophes or social catastrophes. Social catastrophe is nothing else than being a victim of a crime, being a victim of a murder, and therefore this kind of imbalance that you suggested, that your defense agency represents you against another person, and the only thing that the agency wants to do is basically to respect your rights, is also doubtful, because in the case of insurance companies, these interests are not so easily distributed, because the insurance company considers a person who actually is a victim of a catastrophe a winner against the insurance company. So the incentive structure wouldn't be so straightforward as you're suggesting. But then that's the one thing. And now we can compare these two models that we haven't yet. Was the crucial difference between these two organizations? The crucial difference is that the state can externalize costs of its aggressive behavior on the taxpayers, on the people that involuntarily have to hand over the money to the state because they are threatened with death and loss of the life, liberty and property. Whereas organizations such as security agencies, or in particular insurance companies operating on the free market, they operate on a different basis. They cannot externalize costs of their aggressive behavior on their customers, because as you suggested, and as you suggested rightly, they are financed through a voluntary purchases of the service they provide to the customers, to the willing customers. And therefore the incentive to start the war, to have a war between agencies is a different sort of incentive, and I claim is a smaller incentive than there is between the states. We can ask ourselves this question. Imagine two organizations, ceteris paribus, all other things being equal, counterfactually, all other things being equal. Organization A and Organization B, they equal, except one thing. Organization A can't externalize costs of aggressive behavior on other people through taxation. Organization B can do that. And now ask yourself, which of these two organizations will be more aggressive? Where will be the bigger incentive to start violence, to initiate physical force against innocent people? So, and my last point about, arming to teeth, having guns next, with you all the time, machine guns and things like that. Well, I basically, as a free marketeer, I believe in division of labor. And I don't think that we would have to defend ourselves individually. I think we would outsource it. We could outsource it. We could have a division of labor, and professional agencies specializing in this service would basically protect us. In particular, that would be insurance companies, as they protect us now, before something happens to us, not afterwards, as it's the case with the police. And actually, that was also surprising for me when you mentioned that you're not afraid of the state, taking into consideration how many violations are committed by the police in the United States. Is really surprising. We, at least in Poland, don't have this problem because our police is really not so strong and doesn't have such powers. But it's surprising to hear it from someone from the United States, where you really have a big problem with the police and the violence of the police. So yeah, that would be it.
Okay.
On my part.
Thank you very much. Well, we are running out of time, so Would you like to say the last few words to sum up today's meeting?
Well, I'll just say, just to correct this, if I said I'm not afraid of the state, then I misspoke. Of course, I'm afraid of the state in its current manifestation. Of course, I'm afraid of the direction in which states are going, because they're only going in the direction of infringing on individual rights more so. What I'm not afraid of a state that protects individual rights. I'm not afraid of a state that is structured around the principle, which has to be well defined and clearly defined, of individual rights and individual sovereignty. Where I am really afraid is of the anarchist solution, the anarchist world, the deliverance of anarchy. I think it's scary. I think it's destructive, and I think that the arguments are inherently unsound and unreal, and the solutions to the real issues are detached from all reality. If you want anarchy, Somalia is waiting for you. You can go back to the Middle Ages and live in the Middle Ages and enjoy that. That is anarchy. It's not a distortion of anarchy. It's anarchy. It's exactly what anarchy is. It's not that it hasn't been tried. It's been tried many, many, many times, and it's tried, as I said, in our inner cities among gangs. There is anarchy all over the world. You can go find a place and go live there. It's a horrific existence. It is not an existence worthy of human beings. And I think it does us a disservice as defenders of liberty, of those of us who want to defend freedom, to advocate for a system that is so destructive to human life.
Thank you very much. Last few words, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I wanted to say is, well, we could hear that if we want anarchy, we should go to Somalia. What I'm saying is basically we should compare apples with apples and oranges with oranges. We should not compare Somalia with the United States. We should not compare Somalia with, well, Liechtenstein or societies or states like that. We should compare the same with the same. And if we really compare the same with the same, I can say the same against you. What I can say, well, if you want to have a state, go to Nazi Germany. If you want to have a state, go to Soviet Union. This is the lot that is awaiting you, right? So by the same token, as you saying that Somalia is the ideal of anarchy, I can say, well, the ideal of the state is the Soviet Union or is Nazi Germany. Now, the main point I'm trying to make here, and I've been trying to make throughout the whole debate, is the following. The idea presented by Dr. Brook that there can be a state protecting individual rights is a contradiction in terms. The state is an expropriating property protector, and therefore it is a contradiction. We can't think about the state that defends property rights. What's important to notice is that expropriation, don't think about expropriation only in terms of taxation. Expropriation can take different forms. One of the forms that I've mentioned is prohibiting willing individuals from contracting their defense in organization, firms, and other entities that operate on a voluntary basis. Therefore, I will just stand to what I've been presenting here during the debate, that the state is a contradictory institution, morally speaking, that it necessarily violates individual rights, and it has not been disproved that it is possible to exist without such violations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dominiak. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for accepting our invitation for this very interesting and very intensive discussion, for answering all the questions. I think it was very...
There you go. Who won, Andrew?
Oh, I think it was Lukasz.
I'm actually going to have to disagree with you. I think as far as who's in agreement to a certain extent, Lukasz, yes. I think the debate-wise, from my perspective, just because of how he held his argument, never faltered. Yaron won the debate just because he didn't he didn't falter on his own topic at hand. So regardless, I mean, I don't know where else you go from here. I don't know where else. How do you get the normies to gravitate towards a more freer and responsible society when you have individuals like Yaron Brook that they can turn to when they do finally escape the Fox News, CNN, legacy media, idiot box? They can find
Well,
Yaron Brooks and go a little bit smaller in their thinking.
I want to pull up this comment from William. I used to like Brooks and shared with the same political philosophies. Which one of us evolved? Maybe he remained stagnant because there's where he earned a living. Thus, he put himself in a box. He did. If you're
He's
going
worse.
to be participating in anything like this, you can't be taking money because that's a breach of contract, a breach of trust, and it puts you in an awkward position because it makes you dependent on the money that you're making.
Yeah,
Not
and I
breach
think
of
he's
contract,
gotten worse.
breach of trust.
6 years after this debate, he's gotten a little worse in my opinion. Wasn't very lively with the COVID ordeal either. Made some mistakes there. Thank you, sir. Very
You're welcome.
always trying to find something to do. So thank you everybody for joining. We got 59 today live. Most of y'all are on X. Why don't you come to Rumble down there? Give us a follow or go to YouTube like I am is on down there in the chat, and join the chat every Friday at 11 over on YouTube and Rumble and get into a conversation. You can do the same if you wanted to on X, but I don't know, it doesn't feel the same. But thank you all for jumping on live with us and enjoying Andrew's baldness and my dumbass. So, see, Andrew, William gets it. Brooks won as a debater, but the info was terrible.
This reminds me of the recent Dave Smith debate. I can't remember who it was, but basically they came. He was debating somebody, and one party came like Lukasz did with a bunch of information and studies, and Dave Smith came with just common ground, fact, logical, real world examples about different stuff.
Was it the recent
And
one
it's just
on
it
Israel?
was one of the recent ones. He's been doing a lot lately, so I can't remember who it was. He was debating. It's like maybe a month and a half ago. No, not Alex. It was
Alex Berenson was last week.
Yeah, I think it was
name, but
Turning Points USA.
That was terrible.
It might have been. Yeah, the guy
Berenson got annihilated. Yeah. But by a Holocaust denier.
It was the Oxford style debate. That's the one I'm thinking about. But I think it was the same person that did Turning Points USA.
Turning Point USA.
Yeah, I did. Let me just a second, Dave. I'll look it up. Here we go. It was Alex Norwash. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Alex Norwash. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, anyways, Andrew. Anything else that
it's a weird name.
Sounds Russian.
Yeah.
I think they're colluding.
Must
just like
be.
you're colluding with Just for Men.
Yeah, something
or
like
is
that.
it Bosley? Or is it Bosley?
Well,
maybe
it sounds
it's
kind of
him.
bald, so Bosley.
Maybe it's Hems, the new one that's out.
No.
Perhaps it's hers.
I mean, I am trying to lose weight.
Probably it's hers, isn't it? So, anything more to say? Add, rebut, talk shit, praise God, Allahu Akbar. I just stole your line, Muslim, because God is great. In all three, yeah, all three parts of God. Howdy, Pilgrim. Thank you for
going on?
joining us.
We just covered
Anarchy
debate.
Anarchy
with Yaron.
and yeah. Anarchy and menarchy. So yes. Nair.
Well, I gotta go take a shower and use that, so
with that, Andrew, anything to add? Anything to say? You want to Iris goodbye it, or shall we drop the wrestling?
I always like doing the wrestling, but it's up to you. We'll find out.
Rock,
Thanks
paper,
for watching,
scissors.
guys. Okay. Wait, who does what?
If
Rock?
you win,
Yeah,
you get
right when we do
wrestling.
the wrestling. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I cheated.
I don't know what you. Yeah,
and I still
okay.
lost.
Well,
What's
I
out of
did
3?
rock.
I know. I got scissors. Rocks beat scissors.
Stop jacking off on camera.
2. Why are you jerking off, dude? Hold on. Let's do that again. Hold on. What is that?
Paper.
Okay.
Paper.
I get 3. I get best out of 3. 1, 2, 3. You won. You got
All
rock, right? Okay. You got to see rock, paper, scissors live. What kind of podcast does that, everybody?
I don't know.
I'll tell you
But
what.
we're not having the rock on a wrestling promo, that's for sure.
Can you smell? Yeah, that was pretty gay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. So, Andrew, would you like to take us out?
Sure. Thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Den.social, and I'd like to welcome you to WCW Nitro.
You know, brother, you think you know what it takes to beat Hollywood Hogan once you climb in the ring and try out the largest arms in the world.
You want to wrestle an inch more Ric Flair, you gotta be able to walk that out and style and profile. Woo! You really think you're ready for the You really think you're ready for the Scorpion Deathlock? You think you're ready for a fatal encounter?
This is why they call me the total package. Do you have a pain threshold to withstand the butcher rack? Let's find out.
Hallo, hier ist Alex Wright. Wenn ihr High-Flying Wrestling Action wollt, Spinning Sidekick, Top Turnbuckle Dropkick, dann nehmt mich. Der Sieg ist euch sicher. Versprecht euch.
Oh yeah! Watch the flying elbow drop off the top rope. Not only beat people 1, 2, 3, but I hurt them real bad.
It only takes one of 1,000 holds. You think you're man enough for the challenge?
You better be ready to wrestle, because you know, when you're getting in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, it's going to be high-flying and exciting.
Hey, anytime you feel froggy, man, I'll slap on the buzz killer, rip your shoulder right out of socket, Wolfpack style.
Hey, funky boy. Like there's a choice here? Good God! Pick the man with the plan. Pick deep.
Hey, all you suckers out there, you wanna play the game? You wanna play with the big boy? Put your feet on the button, cause when you go down 110th Street, it's gonna be on like Netbone, sucker.
This is Booker T.
from Harlem Heat, hardcore OG brother from 110th Street. The minute you punks got the guts to step up to the plate, push the button.
Yo, Chico, you selected Scott Hall? Get ready for a wild ride on the outside. Hey there! How'd you like to get powered, Bob? Come on, pick me. I'm begging you, pick me.
You think you got the courage to step in the ring? I think you're gonna wind up in a snap neck with a choke slam.
Technical wrestler, high flyer, brawler. It don't matter what you consider yourself to be. When you're in the ring with the crippler, you're a loser.